Get ready.
Well, hello and welcome to this video. I'm just going to go through the 2020 route for the NC500 I'm going to do this year. I don't know, hopefully you've seen last year's video when I did the NC500 for the very first time, and that trip absolutely blew my mind. It was absolutely everything I'd hoped it would be and then some. So this year I'm going to redo the trip. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19, I was supposed to go back in April, so I had to push that out. So the plan is to now go back in August. So obviously that's still dependent on the lockdown situation in the UK. In Ireland, we're well on the way out of the lockdown, so we're doing very well here now. So everything is up in the air until we can get some assurance that it's safe to do the trip. So a few of the things that I learned from the last trip that I'm going to make sure I incorporate or don't incorporate and learn when putting together this trip, I'll go through them now. But obviously the NC500 is a set route, so for the most part it's going to be essentially the same route that we did last year. But with any route I always tweak it and adjust it a little bit and customize it to make it a little bit better and add in things that I want to see and do. And so on this trip it's no different. So from last year there's some major changes in terms of the goals of the trip, and there's some things that I'm keeping that are absolute must-dos if you're on this trip that may not necessarily be on the NC500 itself. So you know, we'll use the NC500 as a rough guide in terms of the overall planning. But we won't be stuck to it rigidly, you know. We'll come off it every now and then when there's something that I want to go and see. So a couple of things that I want to go through is last year, if you remember, I tried to go and do an awful lot of the castles along the route, especially at the lower section of Scotland. And while technically that's a great idea, the reality of it was that when I got there I found that an awful lot of them are in off the road and tucked away, and you have to pay to get into them. So it can take an awful lot of time out of your day if you're trying to stop at every single castle and you have to get off and go in and do a route. Now for me this trip isn't about, you know, stopping and seeing anything like that. If I can drive past and stop and pull in and take a photograph of it as I'm driving, that's fine. But actually getting off the bike for long periods of time is not what this is about. It's a driving holiday, so it's all about, you know, riding the bike and having some nice scenery as you go. So unless it's somewhere that I can pull up and see from the outside, it won't be on the trip this time. The other thing about a lot of the castles in the UK is they're actually quite expensive. You know, they're in and around £20 upwards for each site. So if you do more than 3 or 4 sites at all during the trip, it becomes quite expensive over a period of time. It's not like in Ireland where the OPW, the Office of Public Works, manages all of our historical sites, and they charge either a nominal fee or in most cases are actually free. The UK seems to be quite expensive for visiting historical sites like castles and stuff. So it's just something to keep in mind. The other thing is that because I can't go in April of this year because of COVID, it's forcing me to go in August, and I really didn't want to go in August for several reasons. One, it's supposed to be the busiest time of the year. It's also actually supposed to be one of the wettest months. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but April is actually a drier month. But the other thing is the traffic. Apparently at high season, particularly, you know, the Isle of Skye and some of the upper roads that are very narrow in terms of single track, it just becomes a queue of traffic, particularly with camper vans and stuff like that. Now I don't know if that will hold true this year. There may be a downturn in the volume of people visiting this time round due to COVID-19, but I'm hoping that I'm not too badly impacted with the traffic. April for me was definitely a better time to go. If you watch my videos from last year, I got the perfect weather and there was very little traffic on the roads. So hopefully the weather will stay good for me as well this year, and the traffic will be light. The other thing about August is that apparently it's a very bad time of the year for the insects over there, the midgets or midgies that they call them. So apparently everywhere you go, if you're off the motorbike, it can get very bad and you'll have to wear some sort of a fly netting or something over your head or something to keep them down. They can get that bad. The one thing that I would say, if you're planning to do this route, there are some people who can do this route in 1, 2 or maybe 3 days, but that's taking it to an extreme in my experience from last year. If I just show you on the screen here, the NC500 basically does this entire peninsula here all the way around the coast. The NC500 itself is obviously only 500 miles, so theoretically you could do that quite quickly, but you'd have to be absolutely gunning it on some very narrow roads, and you would literally be not stopping to see anything. For me, makes more sense to take your time. You obviously need, depending on where you're coming from, me coming from Ireland, it's a day just to get to the start of the NC500 and then another day to get back to Ireland, and then there's the NC500 itself. And particularly if you're doing what I do and you're adding in bits like the Isle of Skye and so on, it just pads it out that bit more. And the other thing is, what I would guide if you're planning your route yourself and you're not going to use my routes or similar, once you get beyond the Isle of Skye here, all this section here in this northwestern corner is extremely slow and narrow. I wouldn't plan any more than 200 miles in a day, and that would mean that you'd be leaving at about 9:30, 10 in the morning to allow you to get up and have some breakfast, and not leaving at stupid o'clock, because ultimately it's a holiday and you don't want to be, for me personally, I don't want to be up at the crack of dawn. 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock getting on the road is more than sufficient for me. And then you would get in somewhere around the 6 o'clock time frame in the evening, and that allows you time to get the bike up and locked, get yourself showered and shaved and down in time for dinner. In Ireland, a lot of the restaurants and hotels will stop serving at around the 9 to 10 o'clock mark. In Scotland it seems to be a little bit earlier. Normally about 8 o'clock they've stopped serving food. So you need to get in and down before everything finishes up for the evening, so that you're fed for the night. So those are just a couple of things I wanted to get off about the trip before we get into it proper. I won't go into too much detail about my commuting trip going up. I will touch on it slightly, because that's going to be different for everybody, depending on where you're coming from. You could be coming from the UK or from Ireland or from Europe or the US, so there's no point in me showing you in any depth my commuting route, because that would be totally different for everybody. But once you're on the NC500 itself, I'll go through each day in a bit more detail to show you what my plan is anyway for this year, and we'll go through it. So let's crack on now. So as I said, I'll just very quickly touch on my commute. I won't go into a huge amount of detail on it, but as I'm coming from Kildare in the Republic of Ireland, I'm going to make my way up to Belfast. So last year I left from Larne, which is up here, and if you watch my video, you'll know I got out late that day, so I went straight up into Larne. And then before I finished for the evening, I took the Larne to Cushendall road up along here, which is a phenomenal road. If you ever get the chance to do it, it's an absolutely beautiful coastal drive. So this time, I've planned to try and get out of work a little bit early. I'm going to go from Kildare up along the Summerhill, Trim, Navan Road, because they're just great fun to drive, before making my way north. And then I'm going to go out by the coast road here by Carlingford Lough, and this is a fantastic drive. It's another beautiful coastal road. that goes along here. Now, instead of following the coastal road all the way in along here through the loch into Newry, I'm going to take a turn off here just before O'Mead, and I'm going to go up here to point number 5, which is a mountain road. I think it's called Bavin or something like that, but this is an absolutely stunning road that brings you up over some mountains that looks across back over Newry and across over to the mountains of Mourne. If I just click on my street view level here, I'll go down and hopefully give you an idea of what this road is like. So you can see it's a narrow track. That's the top of the mountain up there, and then going back, it's not a great view here where I've pointed, but once you're back here, it'll look out right all over the entire loch. It's an absolutely stunning road, and if you get the weather for it, if the sun is shining, it's really spectacular. That will drop me down here if I just pull out, and then I'll get back onto the coast road at Newry and make my way out along the coast here, and then before continuing on, I'll turn inland and head up here to the mountains of Mourne. And this is a fantastic road. And just up here, there's a beautiful dam. It's called Spelga Dam. Let me see if I can just get a view on it here. So you'll see there's the loch itself, and off over there in the distance is the dam itself. I've got some nice drone footage of that. Actually, I must post it at some point, but it's a really beautiful drive. So you're getting the best of both worlds. You're coming in by the loch along the coast, up over the mountains here by O'Mead, and then right over the mountains of Mourne, and then it's just make a break for it then to Belfast. So this time, as I said, I'm going to sail from Belfast over to Stranraer. The reason for that is that one, it's a shorter drive, and two, it's just going to give me the opportunity to stay in a hotel in Belfast that I've always wanted to stay in. It's the Titanic Hotel. It's supposed to be a beautiful place to stay. Plus, as well as that, the ferry line that I'm going this time it's a bit more upmarket in terms of the ferry itself. And because of COVID-19, it's allowed me to book a small cabin for the trip. Now, the crossing is only about 2.5 hours. But with the small cabin, it only costs an extra €40. That will allow me to isolate from the main body of the ship, and just reduce the risk of contracting COVID-19 significantly. It's just something I thought might be prudent to do until there's a vaccine available. As you may know from my previous videos, I would be considered in a high risk group because of my asthma. So I may seem a bit overcautious in this, but I just don't want to take any chances. So that will be my commute up. So getting into the first day on Scotland itself, obviously we'll have to leave the ferry port in Belfast and make our way over to Stranraer. So at the moment I actually have 2 routes planned to get from Stranraer up to Ballacoolish, which is up at Glen Etive, but I haven't decided which one I'm actually going to use. One of them is pretty much, the first one here is the coastal route, which is pretty much exactly the same as the one I did last year, but I have an alternative that I've built, which is very similar, but instead of taking the coast road, it goes up over a mountain range before heading up north towards Loch Lomond. So the one I'm most likely going to take, depending on the weather, assuming that the sun is shining, I'll take the coastal route, because it'll be very hard not to take the coastal route if the sun is shining on the ocean. So as you can see here, we'll get into Stranraer. We'll make our way up along the coast. There's a series of castles here that I tried to get to last year, but I'm just going to drive past them because they're just too far in. Yeah, you have to pay into them, and it's just not worth the effort. And then we'll make our way up through this little green parkland area up here. If you remember, I did this one last year and it was absolutely stunning. We'll make our way out through the coast here by Erskine. We'll head over the Erskine Bridge, and then that drops you right here onto Loch Lomond. Now, if you've never done this drive before, this road here along Loch Lomond is absolutely stunning. I mean, really, really beautiful drive. And then that will take us on up right the way up through this forest area, and then you'll hit Tindrum, and Tindrum is the green welly stop. So if you remember from my video last year, hopefully you've watched it, this is it's a real biker spot. A lot of bikers will pull in here on their routes because there's an awful lot of biking routes up here. So it's a good place to stop. They have a great little gift shop, hiking gear, all of that type of stuff. And there's a little cafe there. It's a fuel stop, so it's a good place to stop if you're planning to stop for lunch if you're coming from there. I think last time my ferry pulled in, I think about 9 o'clock, half 9 in the morning, and I was up here by about 1:30. Now, if you remember again from my last year's trip, most people would continue along this road here before connecting onto the one that brings you into Glencoe. But I would highly recommend turning off here. There was roadworks here the last time. This is basically a new road layout here. If you go down here and then join onto this road here, it's absolutely epic. This is one that I happened across last year on my first day, and it was absolutely stunning. I don't know what the name of the road is. I don't think it even appears here in the street view. But it's quite narrow, a bit twin tracky along the way. Catnish it's called, there, Catnish. But there's a beautiful river that flows alongside the road all the way up, and it eventually goes through all this forest land and everything. It's absolutely stunning. Let me see if I can get a street view level here to give you an idea. So as you can see, it's going through this beautiful forest area. All the trees are quite knotted and gnarly. It often reminded me of something out of Lord of the Rings. And as you can see, there's the river. That's pretty much alongside you all the way along the road. It's a very atmospheric, beautiful road. And it only adds about 15-20 minutes onto your overall timings by doing it. It's a really, really good road to do. That will drop you out back onto the main road here by the bridge of Orchy. Which is another beautiful road, and that starts to bring you then into the Glen Etive itself. Now, again, if you've watched my video from last year, there's a shoot off here which is a dead end, which brings you down to the Glen Etive. This is called the Glen Etive Valley, and it's absolutely stunning. Last year I put it in. I thought I'd put it in for last year, and then I'd change it for something this year. But it's just too nice of a road to miss. If you're going past or up towards Glencoe and you're passing it, there's just no way you could in good conscience go past this road without doing it if you're a true motorbiker. The sports bikes, motorbikes won't like it at all, but the dual purpose adventure bikes will absolutely love this road. It is full of gravel, but you drive through this valley. It takes about, I suppose, about 30 or 40 minutes to get in and about another 30 or 40 minutes to get out, but well worth the effort. It's full of wildlife. There's deer and pheasants and the Highland cows all the way down along it. It's absolutely stunning, so well worth the effort. It's a dead end, so you have to turn around and then you'll make your way back out, back onto the Glencoe road. If I just come up here, and then this from here on is just stunning. You're literally driving through the Glencoe Valley here, and then through Glencoe Village, and we'll finish in the same hotel that we finished in last year in Ballycoolish. And it's, trust me, if you're staying anywhere here, stay in this hotel and pay the extra few quid for the Lakeview room. It's absolutely beautiful. So that'll be day one. It's pretty much exactly the same as I did last year, so I know it's achievable. I think last year I got in about 6:30. I arrived at the hotel. That was from the ferry terminal, which had pulled in at about 9:30. So it's a good solid day's riding. So we'll go back now and we'll go into the next day. Now, actually, before I go into the next day, I'll show you the alternate route that I have. Just before I go into the second day. So as you can see, it's exactly the same. There's the Glen Etive, the Tindrum, that river road. All of this is the same. The only difference in this one is that instead of taking a left from the ferry terminal and following the coast road all the way up, I take a right and I cut around out by here by Newton Stewart before heading up into a mountain road here. And again, I'll go street view level and I'll just click in this to try and give you a sense of what this road looks like. So as you can see, it's top of a mountain range with a forest on top, and you know, depending on where you click it, it gets nicer and nicer as you go through it. So again, I have to decide what I'm going to do, and it'll be weather dependent, I suppose, but just to give you an idea of what the other roads that are available to you if you're planning a similar route. So the next day, then going from Ballycoolish, we'll just click in here, and this is quite a long old day. Again, very similar to last year's route, and here is where we deviate significantly from the NC500. So there's a couple of things like this road here, and then we're adding in the entirety of the Isle of Skye, which isn't part of the official NC500. And also in this, we're going to skip Dunvegan, sorry, not Dunvegan, I can't remember the name of the castle, Illandonnan. We're going to skip Illandonnan Castle, which is, to be honest with you, is kind of gut-wrenching because it's an absolutely stunning location to go and see. But I just see a road here that has offered an alternative that looks absolutely amazing, that's too good to miss. So I'm going to give that a chance. And if worse comes to worse, I can loop back and I can do Illandonnan the next day on my way back out from the Isle of Skye. But we'll go through this route now in a little bit more detail. So leaving Ballycoolish, last year, the difference between this year and last year is last year I came straight out of the hotel and I crossed the bridge here before continuing on. This year, as a suggestion by one of my subscribers, I'm going to loop out this way and follow this lock road out. Apparently it goes right the way out and then loops back in and eventually ties back into where the bridge would have delivered me anyway. And apparently this is an absolutely stunning drive. Again, it's quite narrow and rural. I don't know if the sports bike guys would like it. Let me just click in and see if I can see what street level looks like. It's not too bad there, but this is supposed to be a very nice route. It's definitely well worth the effort to go down and have a look. I'm not getting the greatest views here from the street view, but I'm assured it's a beautiful drive. So we'll do that. I don't think it'll take long. It'll only take maybe 20 minutes or so. And then that will bring me back to where the bridge was. And then we followed the coast road out here, up to Fort William. And then here's another variation we're going to take before we continue on out this way and further up the loch. So on here, I'm going to come out here and then out by this lake here. And I believe this is called Glen Etive. So again, it looks very similar to the Glen Etive Valley. So as you can see, absolutely stunning. Now I didn't do this last year, so this is a new addition to the route. And if it looks even half as good as it's looking here at Street View, I'm going to be a happy camper. As you can see, the road is very narrow. It's a single track. It's literally the width of the bike. I'm imagining there's going to be some pull-in points that you can get down, but it's absolutely perfect for touring on the motorbike. So I'm absolutely looking forward to this one. So again, it's a dead end, so we're going to have to loop back out, and then that will bring us back down here, and then we're going to head out all the way here, and this is where things get slightly different. So normally I would have headed out by this road here and gone out towards Illandonnan Castle, which is around this point here. But instead of continuing out this way, which is what I did last year, so last year I followed this road out down to the Isle of Skye, and then I went over the Skye Bridge and then onto Skye. But this time I'm taking a slightly different route, and I'm doing that to take this road here. So this road here is called the Military Road. Which is interesting because one of the routes that we often do here at the weekend in the Wicklow Mountains is also called the Military Road, and it actually looks very similar to it. If I can go street level here, you can see it's a huge forested mountain area. Absolutely stunning. and again it's quite narrow, but the surface looks quite good, and that's going to bring us right over the mountains, through the valley, and then hopefully that will drop us down here to where I can catch a ferry, and this ferry here should allow me to take a car ferry over to the Isle of Skye. So here should be the ferry terminal. There you go. Little ferry brings us over to the far side there, and that's the Isle of Skye there ahead of us. So I'll need to obviously just check that that ferry is definitely running and how often it runs, etc. Before I finalize this. If it's not running for any reason, I'll just revert back to the original one that I did last year and go out over the bridge. But then once I'm onto the Isle of Skye, I'm going to follow essentially the same route that I did last year, all the way out up here by Dunvegan Castle. Then we'll go up here, and here again we vary from last year. Last year we went around this road here, but I forgot, or not that I forgot, I didn't realize that I had driven past the entrance here to the Quarang. I had hoped to get up to the Quarang. I drove past it by mistake last year, so to ensure that that doesn't happen, I'm literally mapping the route right the way across it, instead of going out this way and then going up it and then back down it. Then it'll bring me down by Kilt Rock, again another stunning waterfall on a cliff. That will bring me down here then by the Old Man of Store. Hopefully this year I'll get some better drone footage of it. I wasn't happy with the drone footage I got from it last year, so hopefully I'll get a better go at it this time. And then this year, instead of coming back off the Isle of Skye to stay over here, I'm going to stay in Portree itself. So last year, if you remember, if you watched my video, I didn't get the opportunity to stay in Portree because it's a very popular spot, very difficult to get a hotel booked on it, but luckily, because I knew I was going to go back, I booked extremely early, and I managed to get one. And Portree is a beautiful little town. I stopped in it briefly when I passed through it last year, and it's absolutely stunning. So I'm delighted that I managed to get a hotel in it this time. So this time I'm going to stop and stay in Portree, and that'll be the end of that day. So that's 240 miles. As I said, once you get past this point now, you don't want to be planning anything more than about 200 miles upwards. Certainly not until you get past, maybe John O'Groats type of area. This road is much quicker down the east coast, but this whole corner is extremely slow. So don't plan any more than 200 miles. Well, personally, I wouldn't. Otherwise, you're going to be it's going to be a long day for you, and not pleasant if it's raining. So we'll go back now to the third day. So day 3 now, leaving Portree. It's going to be a quick spin off the island itself, taking the coast road out, and this time we'll head out over the Isle of Skye bridge, which again it's a stunning bridge, really fun to drive over, and then that'll drop you out. And then point number 3 here is just a little town that I've seen before that's quite similar to Portree. I just want to drop in and have a look at it. It's supposed to be a beautiful little port there, and it's called Plockton. Just checking it out as a potential place to stay for maybe next year's trip. And then from Plockton we're going to make our way out all the way here, out along the coast road, and then cut across here, and now we're going to do the amazing Applecross. So Applecross starts, the bottom of it starts here. This is the main route here, and as everyone who may have watched my video the last time, the Applecross Pass can be a bit of a nail biter. To be honest with you, you can see the road is extremely narrow. It's not much wider than the bike, and there's a couple of extremely tight hairpin bends on it. And if you remember from my video last year, it was totally fog bound. We couldn't see more than about 10 or 15 feet in front of myself last year when I got up near the top. It was a bit of a nail biter. But the one thing I would say about it is it's not nearly as scary being on it as it was made out to be. I'd watched an awful lot of YouTube videos, and I think a lot of people were trying to say it was extremely terrifying and nerve-wracking, and I was stressed all about it going over, and I was hemming and hawing whether I'd do it or not, etc. And I was very glad that I did do it, because it's once you're doing it, it's not half as bad as people make out. Now it is, it is a bit, dodgy in some spots, but it's not nearly half as bad as a lot of people made it out to be. So if at all possible, and you're doing this route, do not miss the Applecross Pass. The other thing about it is, if you don't do the Applecross, it means you'll miss basically this entire section here, which is absolutely stunning. It's some of the best bits. Now, if you don't want to do it, there is a road here that cuts up along here, and then you can continue on out. But as I said, it means cutting all of this out, and it's absolutely stunning. You really don't want to miss that section. So yeah, Applecross, that drops you down here. You'll follow the coast road out, and then that will bring you up to Torrington. If you remember last year's trip, if you watched the video, there's a beautiful little deer museum here, and you can go in where they have a herd of deer, and it's literally an offshoot off the road. It takes 5 minutes to go in and have a look. Well worth the effort to go in. I'll definitely be doing that again this year. And then I'm going to continue out again. This road here brings you out to Diabeg. This is not part of the official North Coast 500, but this road here is absolutely unbelievable. It's actually better, I think, than the Applecross in sections of it, and it's actually a bit more nerve-wracking than the Applecross was made out to be in certain sections of this. It's quite steep. So then that will bring you over to Diabeg, and there's a beautiful little port here. Now this, if you remember from last year's trip, this is where I had an altercation with a man who I think is either the owner or the manager of a little cafe. This building here, it's not a cafe here, but it is now. This Google Maps must obviously be several years old, but this is now a cafe, and I had a quite aggressive altercation with a man there because I had parked in the cafe's car park, and he wasn't happy about that. But all that aside, it's well worth the drive going over. What I'd highly recommend is bring a coffee flask or something and a sandwich, and eat it outside the cafe shop, and give them an L away from me. So that will bring you back. As I said, that's another dead end. You'll have to come back on, and then you're back onto the North Coast 500 again, and then we'll head out by here, all the way out here to point number 8 in Gairloch, and then continue on out here. And before we go up to Ullapool for the day, I just, like I did last year, I make my way out to this lake here. This road here is absolutely stunning. Well worth the effort to get up to, and then it only takes about 10 or 15 minutes, and then you can shoot all the way back into Ullapool itself. Now what I would say is, from point 6, point 8 and out to point 9, this road is off the charts good. It's absolutely stunning. Do not miss it. It's really, really good. And then that drops you into Ullapool. And again, I'm staying in the same hotel as we stayed in last year, the Arch Inn, I think it's called. A cracking little hotel. I can't recommend it enough. If you're going, stay in Ullapool. It's right on the seafront. Try and get a room that's looking out over the ocean, and they've got great live music in the evenings, and it's where basically the entire town comes to, so it's a really lively spot. Well worth the effort, and it's not very expensive at all, and they do an amazing breakfast. So that will top that day off, and trust me, if you've done this, that is a great day's driving. That's probably one of the best days in the whole trip. So now we'll get to day 4. Day 4, bringing us from Ullapool right the way out to John O'Groats. Now again, as I said, this is the slowest part here. For me, these roads here are unbelievably narrow and tight and slow. So as you can see, last year what I had done was I had planned all of this and then all the way down past here into Inverness. And I know the Mizzen Flyer himself did pretty much that route, and hats off to him. That must have been an absolute killer of a day, because the next day I did this route down, which is faster, but it took me a good 4, 5, 6 hours to do it. So I would highly recommend not doing much more than what's here, about 200 miles. So in this it's 216, and if I remember correctly, last year I left Ullapool I think at about 9:30, 10. I went out, I got here, I went out to Dunnet Head, and then I went back into Thurso where I was staying, and I think I got there for about, I think it was after 7 o'clock in the evening. So this is extremely slow. But yeah, so you leave Ullapool and you make your way out here, and all of these roads are just unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Through Loch Inver, out here to point number 2, follow it all the way out here, and you're basically just following the coast road for as much as possible. And then you get up here to Durness. And again, I said it last year, but I didn't know what it was going to be like. But before you continue on out on the coast road, just take a left here in Durness. It only takes about 10 minutes to get down here, and then you'll meet the Cocoa Mountain cafe and chocolate shop. I can't stress enough how this stuff was good. Last year I had heard about it and I didn't know how good it was, and when I did the trip I went there and it absolutely blew my mind. Go in there and buy yourself a hot chocolate drink. It's off the Richter scale beautiful. And it's another spot where a lot of bikers go, and then there's a beautiful little beach here that you can go out and get some beautiful photographs of. Well worth the 10 or 15 minutes to get down there. It's a good little pit stop for the motorbike, and then don't forget you can buy your chocolate motorbikes when you're out there as well. Then make your way out, and then don't do what I did last year. And last year I was so engrossed in talking to you guys, I wasn't paying attention, and I drove right past the entrance to Smoot Cave, and I missed one of the things that I'd been looking forward to for the trip. So this year I'm absolutely positively not missing Smoot Cave, so we'll drop in there. So again, from Smoot Cave you follow the coast around all the way down, just keep going, and all of this is absolutely astonishing, really beautiful. And then we'll get here to Point 10. So Point 10 is just outside Thurso. Here's Thurso town. The hotel I'm staying here is just outside Thurso, but we're not going to go straight in. We're going to do what we did last year, which is go out to Dunnet Head, go out to John O'Groats, and then come back in and then stay the night in Thurso, because there's not a lot in terms of hotels, etc., all around this section here. So I chose to stay here in Thurso. There's a big enough Thurso is a big enough town. And the hotel I stayed in last year was absolutely amazing. If you remember, I stayed in a beautiful little kind of a cottage. It was called Fast Eddie, and I've asked them to give me my old room back, and they've kindly said that they would, so hopefully that will work out. But there's not a whole lot going on in terms of hotels, so unless you're going to continue a good bit down, I highly recommend staying in Thurso. So I'm going to make my way back in, and then that will allow me then, I don't have to do Dunnet Head or John O'Groats the next day. I can just crack on because I will have already done them on this day. But that's a phenomenal day. So now we go into day 5, and this is essentially the last proper planned day, I suppose, in the North Coast 500. So again, as I said, we're going to leave Thurso. We're not going to do Dunnet Head this time. We're going to shoot out. We'll probably pop in, depending on the weather, back down to John O'Groats, because if you're doing this road, it's literally 2 minutes from the junction. Get a photograph or two, and then this is when things really start to speed back up again. This road is much quicker than all the roads you've been doing for the last 2 days, so you can really get up some speed here. So you can see this route, and again I've done an alternate for this. This route is 295 miles, so nearly 300 miles on this route, and I'm not too worried about it because it's essentially the same route I did last year. Last year I left Thurso, I came right the way down the coast. I didn't do point 3 or 4. I did cut out, and I came along Loch Ness, which again is unbelievable. If you've never done the coastal road along Loch Ness, do not miss it. Absolutely stunning. And then last year I dropped down here, I continued on, and I went to Oban, and Oban is a beautiful town, but on this occasion I'm actually going to loop back out and head for the Bridge of Orchy, because I found a hotel there, and the Bridge of Orchy itself is just a beautiful spot within the mountains. So just for a change, I'm going to go out and stay in the Bridge of Orchy, which is just above Loch Lomond here. But the main difference again with this route is down along the east coast. We're going to cut down, but before we head on to Loch Ness, there's 2 points I'm after finding here that look absolutely amazing, and that's these roads here. So that's point number 3, which is, and I'm going to murder the pronunciation of this, Glen Etive Road, and then this one here, number 4, is Glen Etive Road. And I'll just show you at street level as to why I've chosen to go down here. If I can just click on here. And so you can see it's another one of these beautiful valleys with a lake at the end of it. There's a fantastic looking dam here. I'm hoping I can get the drone up over it and get some nice footage. But you can see here, if I get up a bit further, you see a beautiful lake up on top of the dam. So absolutely stunning. And you can actually go over to the far side of it here as well. Let me see if I can get a better shot at this. So here you go, you can see the facility that's here. Looking out, there's the dam wall itself. Absolutely incredible. So I'm hoping to get down there and get some nice drone footage if I'm able. And then we'll backtrack out of here, because obviously it's a dead end. And then we'll make our way out here again to point number 4, Glen Etive Road. And again, this is another beautiful lake with a fantastic looking road. Just somewhere to go exploring and see what's actually down here. So yeah, I think it's just somewhere that looks interesting to me. So we'll see how that is on the actual trip, and we'll get some nice footage of that. Then we'll make our way out, and then we'll get to do the vast majority of what's left then of Loch Ness out here by Urquhart Castle. Again, another castle you can't get into unless you get off the bike, and you're going to spend an hour and a few quid to get into it. But it's a beautiful drive down here. We'll get to point 6, and then we'll keep on heading out past Invergarry, and then into Fort William. And then we've essentially closed the loop, because we went on our way out, we went up here from Fort William before we cut out this way. So now we're basically completing the loop here before making our way out here to the Bridge of Orchy. So that will be a nice day. There's a lot in there that I haven't done before, so it'll be nice to see some new places. So before I go on, there is an alternate to that road, or to that route. So the alternate, depending on the timing I have, is to take the coast road down and then do the route that I had planned to do last year, which was to take me essentially right through the Cairngorms here, before dropping out and then making my way to the Bridge of Orchy. Now this one is 319, so it's about 25 miles longer than the other route, but I think it's also going to be slower, because I think this road here through the Cairngorms is very slow. So even though I'm only adding 25 miles, I may be adding an additional 2 hours. And if memory serves me correctly, last year when I left Thurso, by the time I got to Oban, it was well after 7 o'clock, nearly 8 o'clock. So it was a long day. So depending on how early I get up and get going might determine, and also the weather might determine, which of these 2 routes I'll take. But if you're from Scotland, or if you've done either of those routes, which one would you recommend? Would you recommend the Cairngorms over the hydro plant and the dam, or would you do the dam and just head straight down to the Bridge of Orchy? So then that brings us then to our last day, day 6. So I'll just click into it here, and here we're just doing a few things now that so obviously I don't think my ferry leaves till about 4:30 or 5 in the evening, so this is only 219 miles, but they're on quick roads, so we'll get to do a little bit more exploring before we finish for the day. So starting in my hotel here in Bridge of Orchy, there's a beautiful little road just at the back of it here. I just want to go and check out before I head off for the day. If I go to street level here, you know, it just looks like a nice little interesting road. It'll only take 5 minutes. We'll check that out before we head off for the day. And then we'll head out from the Bridge of Orchy, and then we're going to go down here to point number 3. Now point number 3 was a pass. It's called Duke's Pass, and one of my subscribers from Canada very kindly put me onto this. I hadn't even heard of it before, so it's great now that I'm able to get some feedback from somebody watching the channel and incorporate something that they've recommended into my trip. So thank you very much for that tip. I've added it in here, and I'm really looking forward to doing it. It looks like a really beautiful pass. Nice wide road. You can get a bit of speed up and get some nice views up here. I'm probably not doing it justice with the points I'm picking here. I'm just randomly picking points along it, but we'll get better footage of it obviously when we're doing it, and I'll see if I can get the drone over it. So I'll add that into the route for this year. That will bring us out, and then while I was looking at that, I spotted this road out here by this lake. So we'll take this road out. As you can see, it's absolutely stunning, all the way out by this lake here. Very nice. And if memory serves me correctly, I found a couple of other points here. So again, these are dead ends. I think there may be a ferry that goes from here across Loch Lomond, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'll have to see on the day. But I've decided to come in to see these 2 points here. Absolutely beautiful. So this is point 4. It's called Stronach Lachlar, I think it's called. I know I've murdered that, but really, really nice. And then we'll go over to point number 5, and I'm really just going over here to see if there is a ferry that will take me over the lake, which is Loch Lomond. So let me just click here. It looks like that might be just a passenger and not a car ferry, but you will go over and we'll have a look anyway. So failing that, I'll continue on out, and then we'll drop down, and then we're going to basically head out the coastal road that we took in on the first day from the ferry, and that will drop me all the way back down to Stranraer, where I can catch the ferry then back to Ireland. There's no point in going through my trip down from Belfast. That ferry, like last year, will get in at somewhere around, I think, about 7 o'clock in the evening, and literally all I'll be doing when I roll off the ferry is setting the sat-nav to home and then hitting the throttle as fast as I can and making a break for home, because it'll be probably about close to 10 o'clock in the evening by the time I get back down to my home in Kildare. So that's essentially the route for this year. You know, as I said, it's the NC500, so you know the route hasn't changed a huge amount. All that's changed is the diversions that I've added in to bolt onto it and make the route a bit fresh and new for me for doing it for this year. Hopefully you've liked the additions. As I said, there's some things that I did last year that aren't part of the NC500 that I absolutely can't miss. There's no way I could go without doing them, like Glen Etive and the road going from Tindrum up to Glencoe. But let me know if you know of any other places that I should add into the route. You know, obviously I haven't gone yet, so it's still open to be adjusted. But I'll share these routes here in my route app. As always, I'll put a link into the video below. You can click on them, you can download the routes, edit them, make suggestions, convert them to GPX files and use them for yourself. And you know, by all means, feel free to use them. If you have any questions on anything that I've gone through here, or any recommendations, or something on it that you see that might not be worth the effort, absolutely feel free to reach out to me and let me know. But it'd be great to hear from you, and I'm hoping to get back to Scotland this year and get this trip done. Like I said, I'll be doing the Ring of Kerry trip as well soon, so I'll do a video like this going through the routes for the Ring of Kerry and the southern peninsulas here in Ireland. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully I'll see you on the road someday. So like that subscribe button and share the video with as many people as you can. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so you know, you'd be doing me a big favor if you like the video. And I'll talk to you again. Take care.